I'm going to call the meeting to order, and Ms. Benson is going to give us the invocation and the pledge.
Please rise if you will and join me. Dear Lord, we thank you for the opportunity to work on behalf of this beautiful community. Thank you for the privilege of working with the most professional staff I have ever encountered and the most equally competent board and citizen advisory committee. It is a pleasure to do so. May we be equal to the task. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Benson. We move now to the adoption of the agenda. Do I have any changes or revisions? If not, do I have a motion?
I move the adoption of the agenda as submitted.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Do we have a quorum? Yes. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yes. Hi. Okay. Ms. Ritz, I'm sorry, Ms. Ritz is not here for the rest of the board. She has resigned due to some health issues, so please keep her in your prayers. Ms. Schneier is out ill, and Mr. Stevens is on vacation, so keep that in mind. Thank you. Please vote on the adoption of the agenda. Make sure your little circle is green. Or red. This one, it should be green. Who is it? Mr. Okay. Oh, okay, and it passes 7-0. Thank you. We move now to open forum. Today we are discussing the graphics on the East Tank at 205 East Cervantes Street in Pensacola. I don't have any pink slips, so I don't know if I have people that are here to speak. But if you're here to speak, if you will get a pink slip up here and fill it out, and then you'll be able to speak when the time comes. To begin with, I'm going to ask Mr. Bruce Woody, our administrator, to give us a brief presentation on this item. And show us some slides that he has, and then we'll have you speak, and then we'll do discussion ourselves. Thank you. Thank you, Bruce.
Sure. Appreciate this opportunity to chat with the CAC committee this afternoon. As you may well know and remember, we have a existing facility, one of our many elevated tanks. This one referred to as the East Tank, which is located over on Cervantes, immediately east of the I-110 corridor and immediately north of the Pensacola Police Department. Because of its very prominent position immediately adjacent to the highway, it does hold ripe possibilities for messaging, graphics, and such. At present, there are graphics on the facility. It was last painted in the year 2004, and at that point in time, the three graphics that were painted on the facility, on the north side for southbound traffic, you would see the message "Cradle of Aviation" and a set of aviators' wings. On the west side of the tank, there is the ECUA logo that was current at that time, which is the shield in 3 colors. On the south side of the tank, which would be visible for northbound traffic on I-110, is a advertisement for the Blue Angel Classic, which was a relatively short-lived golf tournament. Was held a few years in this area, then moved on from the community. So what we're considering now, because it was time to do major maintenance on this facility, we're sandblasting and recoating and repainting the inside of the tank as well as the outside of the tank. Just for some historical information, this tank was originally constructed in 1935. So it is the type of structure that has the legs of the tank are of a web design, steel riveted. It has quite a few appurtenances around the outside of it. There's a pedestrian walkway structure and several other structures on the outside. They're not quite as common in newer designs. Most of that, new tanks have a much cleaner look, but there are quite a few appurtenances on the outside of this one. So while it doesn't lend itself to the exotic murals and photorealistic types of images that sometimes you'll see in some communities, it still does present an opportunity for a simpler type of graphic. And that's the reason that we are discussing this morning some various options. We'll first say under the next slide down, if you go ahead and progress it to considerations. There are some points I'd like to make for sure to make sure we have some clear understanding on our discussion as it goes forward. We do have a relatively narrow window of time to discuss possible graphics for this tank. And that is primarily due to the fact that we already have a contractor who's working on the general painting of the entire structure. And he's probably 2/3 or better the way through that process. An important expense of this overall project, and by the way, this tank alone is probably a little north of $700,000 worth of work altogether. An important expense of that work is preparatory work that includes tenting or shrouding the entire structure to make sure that paint overspray doesn't drift away from the structure, particularly with the close proximity of the highway next door. And the mobilization associated with that preparation. So we certainly would want to do this during the time period that we already have scheduled for the contractor while the contractor is already there and present. And number two, any design that we would have for this structure, we'd certainly want it to be timeless. And by that I mean it needs to be a message or graphic or image that's well represents the community and would be a message that can stand the test of time over 15 or 20 years, because that's the length of time for between these painting cycles. I would like to give strong thanks and comment about some communications I've had with the Blue Angels organization altogether. As an organization, we reached out to them to first garner their interest and support, or lack thereof, of continuing to have some kind of Blue Angels message on there, because we got quite a few positive responses from the public about that. And within 2 hours of reaching out, I was contacted by their chief executive officer for the Blue Angels organization, very supportive and very encouraging. He further gave me contact information for their the legal side of the military organization, who would grant the formal authority for using their images and information. He was not only supportive, but also encouraged us to use their font, their colors, their new Super Hornet image, etc. He made it quite clear that that's not something that they would offer to other places, other locations. But this is their hometown, and they're proud of their hometown, and they support that. Certainly there's qualifications come with that. Can't have advertising and those sorts of things as well. We have to be a public entity, which we are. So we've been soliciting some contributions and some suggestions and recommendations from the general public as well, and got some very favorable responses from the general public, encouraging us to get input from the public. And so we've got a few slides that will follow here that I'll ask Natalie to advance for us. that have been submitted either through email or other means over the last several days. We collected those up through Sunday evening. And I don't normally read slides when making presentations, but the font's a little small, and I think the message probably would be conveyed better if I just did some of these verbatim. So if you'll bear with me, I'll read through a few of these that we received from members of the public. From a gentleman named Amir, he said, if it's possible to do two images, I would do an America's First Settlement theme, and maybe on the other side a tribute to the Blue Angels and NAS. I think that America's First Settlement is a big deal to the entire area, and I never see that on display anywhere else in our area. Brittany submitted a comment. I think it should be painted by a local graffiti artist to mimic the graffiti bridge with local art. Someone named Logan submitted a message as follows. I would like the Wings of Gold and Cradle of Naval Aviation to be reused on the water tower. Replace the Blue Angel Classic to recognize Blue Angels, or Naval Aviation Museum, or both is also good. Please put the ECUA logo on 1/3 slots because we do appreciate the work your teams do to maintain our utilities. Continuing, a gentleman named Drew stated, I believe that there would be strong community support for the Blue Angels and Pensacola's naval history and/or America's First Settlement. Perhaps on the other side of the tower could have recognition of both. Elizabeth said, I submit that the tank already resembles the form of a jellyfish, and given our proximity to the Gulf, painting it to look like a jellyfish would be pretty cool. Thank you for allowing input. Jason said, perhaps a large mural such as the one on the Jefferson Street parking garage. If there is a way to depict Pensacola history along with the present, that would not only look amazing, but would show the millions of visitors of Pensacola rich history is here. Someone with the initials RC just said Blue Angels. Zach said 5 flags to represent Pensacola's history. Chad submitted, I would like to consider adding Naval Flight Officer wings to the water tank with a picture of Naval Aviator wings and the Cradle of Naval Aviation slogan. Andrew said, I want the north side to stay as it is, which is Wings of Gold and Cradle of Naval Aviation. I want the south side to say Home of the Blue Angels and have either the Diamond, which is 4 jets, going sideways, or the Delta, which is 6 jets with smoke going up. I have no opinion about the east side. Norman says, please include the name and picture of the Blue Angels. Also include the name Pensacola and ECUA for branding purposes. Susan Submittal says, I am very glad that the water tank is being refurbished. Since we are the Cradle of Aviation and also so proud of our Blue Angels, perhaps find a way to put both of those on the side of the tank. Mike's submission says, paint the bottom like a beach with sea oats, birds, and turtles. And then above the beach, the beautiful water, below summer sky with some nice cloud buildups. The rest of the surrounding tank have aircraft, Blue Angels of course, and all the variety of flight training aircraft. Turboprop trainers, the old Bell training helo, and the brand new training helo that will be coming online soon. Also add both pilot and NFO wings plus various enlisted aviation rating insignia. Too busy? Question mark. Hey, it's a big tank. Think big. Okay, let's not leave the U.S. Coast Guard out of it. Add a U.S. Coast Guard ship design too, and the Glory Crest and Chappie James Bridge. Clover submitted, I think that the water tower should maintain the Cradle of Naval Aviation and Blue Angels. Joy said, thank you for allowing public input of the repainting of the water tower. Our family feels it should retain some connection to the Blue Angels, such as Home of the Blue Angels. It would show ECUA's support of our military. Linda's submission says, I would like the Blue Angels logo with the words about the Gulf, without the words about the Gulf tournament. You could add, Welcome to Pensacola, Cradle of Naval Aviation. John's submission was, I would definitely be in favor of preserving the history and iconography of Pensacola, and would include the current portrayal of water in the ECUA logo along with Blue Angels, but also include some other graphical elements like the graffiti bridge, Pensacola Lighthouse, and the popular pelican statues. Since there was mention of, there were a couple graphics submitted as well. One was related to work done by Ashton Howard, a local artist, and submitted some copies of work he has done or proposed. He said, I worked with the city of Pensacola on the Jefferson Street parking garage mural in 2016, and I think a hand-painted mural with the American flag on the Gulf water like this painting would be awesome. The ECUA logo could be incorporated into the design as well. And then one of our last two submissions, there was a submitted example of Eric Hen's work. Jan said, I'm sure he could paint an amazing Blue Angels image. Another idea is a mural reflecting that Pensacola is the first settlement, not St. Augustine. I think there's some rivalry that continues to this day on that topic. And the last was a real cute submission from a local junior artist in our area. Stephanie, I think on behalf of her child, submitted this was some artwork our fifth grader at Baghdad Elementary School recently created. Thought it would look beautiful on the tower. So we summarized then in a little bit of a table there some broad categories of some of those and other comments that we received. Far and away, the point winner has been subjects related to Blue Angels in general, either in general or specifically that this is the home of the Blue Angels. Cradle of naval aviation remains very popular. There were a few comments about Florida's first settlement or some historical related topic. Welcome to Pensacola was also moderately common. The last three items, large-scale mural, beach in general, or local art, while are great suggestions, as I did mention in my earlier remarks, we do have a few unfortunate limitations on some of the topics that we can realistically consider. Again, because of it being an old-style tank with pedestrian railings and lots of appurtenances on the outside, the ability to put a nice photorealistic image is really not very practical, the way that would interfere with the image. Plus the equally, if not even more, realistic and practical limitations of the fact that we already have an existing contractor, and if we were to do something that complex, we would really have to be separately bid out again, and then that would also incur all of the mobilization and retenting and all of that work as well. So those last three are really not practical options for consideration. I would like to stop at this point and entertain comments from the audience before we go on and present the rest of the presentation, which will include some images.
Speaker, did you get a pink slip? Oh, okay. You can come on up to the podium. Thank you. And tell us your name and address and.
All right, can I drop my mask?
Yeah. Yes.
All right, good afternoon. My name is Chad George. My address is 326 North Sunset Boulevard, Gulf Breeze, Florida, 32561. I retired from the Navy a few years ago after 20 years of service as a naval flight officer, and got about 3,500 hours in 5 aircraft. And my request today is that you consider including naval flight officer wings. I'm actually the Chad that was up there. I sent an email to Mr. Woody earlier when I didn't think that I could make it in. But I would like to consider adding the naval officer wings to whatever eventually gets added on to the tower. I think it would be a fitting tribute to the naval officers, both past and present, living, working, training here. Since they've had the pilot wings on there, we could also maybe throw some NFO wings on as well. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Chad, thank you very much for your input. Thank you very much for making the trip out here to talk to us. And thank you very much for your service to the United States of America.
And particularly if he drove from Gulf Breeze.
And
That's like-
if you drove
that's
from
a
Gulf
huge
Breeze,
plus.
you get really big kudos. Amen. All right, so I will entertain now, if there's no other guests to speak, I will allow some input. Do you want to show these pictures that you have?
It might be helpful if we go ahead and scroll through some of these.
Yeah, go ahead and scroll through those, and then I'll let the
examples.
board speak.
Couple
Yeah.
qualifications, and please understand that these are just to stimulate discussion. These aren't final products. In fact, I will make at some point in time a discussion or comment at the very end that we'll still need some administrative leeway from whatever you choose, because we will have to do some final negotiations with the contractor. You'll have some concerns, I'm sure, about complexity of image, the number of colors, all the things affect the complexity of the stencil, the design, and ultimately the cost. Just the arrows? Okay. And where's the receiver over here? Yeah, good. Okay, I've put, or I shouldn't say excuse me, Natalie Bowers, who prepared this presentation, did a wonderful job. She's also put numbers by these images. If you want to write notes to yourself as you go through ones you particularly like, you might note the little number in the upper left-hand corner there, and we can then go back and forth between slides if you'd like to do that. So, some of the most popular comments all came back again and again. Home of the Blue Angels. This first image. Oh, I also would like to point out Ellis Bullock is with us, who prepared these images from the E.W. Bullock Agency. Did a wonderful job in preparing these with relatively short notice. Thank you very much for your work. So this first image, Home of the Blue Angels, and note that it does have the Super Hornet image in it. It's a simplified graphic of the plane as opposed to a photorealistic picture of the plane. Keep in mind also that you're traveling 65 miles an hour down the highway. You only get a 3-second glance at the images as well. So there's only a certain amount of complexity you can put on the tank as well. Item number, notice that the font is the Blue Angel font and has their gold color. Picture number 2, another version of the same thing. This image is much more dramatic. It's head on. It is, however, what I would call photorealistic. It has shades of gray and white in it. So that image, although it is dramatic and attractive, may not be practical for our contractor. Images number 3 and 4 are similar. One with a cloud of some would call it exhaust. It's actually smoke oil that comes out the back of the jet when they're doing displays. So there's different versions of similar graphic there, 3 and 4. Images number 5 and 6. Here is a view from above. So you get to see the U.S. Navy image on the wings, and you get a more dramatic feel and of the new Super Hornet, which is a much larger plane than the previous equipment they've been using. Similar image, a little bit different layout on image number 9, where it's actually put on the tank so you get a feel for scale. Well, I guess I didn't advance it yet there. There's 8 and 9. Number 10, before I change it, the Blue Angels font and logo includes the gold color. When we change to the next example, we still have the gold color, but it is outlined in blue. They have variations of that kind of font and color combination on their own webpage. So it does make it snap a little bit more. It may add some complexity to the and cost to the image recreation, though that discussion we haven't had with the contractor yet. Go on to 11, and similar picture, This one, a little bit larger image of the plane, and there's, for scale, there's an image of it on the tank as well. One of the next most common or more popular images were the existing cradle of naval aviation. So this is very similar to what's up there now, although I will say that the graphic shown here is considerably more detailed than the one that's on the tank at present. The one at present pretty much has the outline, and while you can see the shield fairly well, you really can't quite see the anchor portion of the design very well. And some of the inner scalloping of the wings is not quite as detailed on the existing tank as is in that current image. 13 is a different concept. There were some questions about whether we ought to be welcoming folks to our community. And this might be a concept worth consideration if you're southbound on I-10. That's the point as you're going past this tank that you get your first really good view of the bay and Gulf breeze and the Gulf of Mexico in the distance. It might be an appropriate welcome to visitors to our community. You'll see a series of logos over these next several slides, different combinations of Welcome to Pensacola. Some of them incorporate the font and split dual color layout that is common with the font and layout that you'll see with the logo with the city of Pensacola. So this one here, Pensacola welcomes you. The next one, Welcome to Pensacola. Here we've also included a current tagline that has been used by the city of St. Joseph. I'm sorry, I've said that so many years that slips in.
Yeah, that's funny.
City of Pensacola. Florida's first and future. My only caution about that is, again, the concern about it being a timeless image. Slogans change, taglines change, even from mayor to mayor to mayor, so that may or may not be something we would want to continue there. 15, this color combination is more like what is used by the city's current logo scheme with the blue over green. 16 is another variation. Again, it includes that tagline that probably better not consider. Would be my recommendation, at least. 17, again, just a larger version with the city's color scheme. And one of the last ones, this also being a Welcome to Pensacola, that you'll notice actually incorporates the ECUA logo scheme in terms of color and the wave at the bottom that you're used to seeing in the ECUA logo. So that's kind of a nice combination of important messaging to our community, welcome, at the same time identifies it as ECUA infrastructure. Again, these are just concepts for discussion. I would turn it back to the chair for open discussion. And I would encourage, if anybody has any questions, Mr. Bullock is here as well, if he wants to discuss color issues and graphics issues.
Thank you, Bruce, and thank you for being here, Mr. Bullock. Ms. Benson.
Thank you. First of all, thanks for this presentation and for all the thought that everyone put into it, including those people that I heard from and who weighed in on the radio and all of that. I think it's kind of a fun thing to do instead of talking about sewage and trash. I have a couple of comments. One is, this water tower is at the gateway. It not only welcomes our guests, it speaks to our community. So to welcome to Pensacola wears thin about your 40th trip past that. So I think we have so much to celebrate that we're wasting it on just a city logo. I agree with Admiral George that we ought to celebrate the Navy, I assume. Yeah, right. I'm not sure that we need two Navy logos. because we are the cradle of naval aviation. We are the home of the Blue Angels, but we sure are a lot more. And I like the idea of America's first settlement. In a time when people are doing more and more cultural tourism, they need to be reminded of our history, because they might come to our beaches, but they might come back to tour our history. So I think a second message ought to be about some amenity that we need to celebrate. And oh, by the way, people here need to be reminded that we are so historic. There are many people in this town who have seen the Blue Angels countless times, but maybe haven't gone to the historic district and toured all this wealth that we have. So I would weigh in favor of having one Navy logo, and I think the consensus might be toward the Blue Angels rather than Cradle of Aviation, and one historic. Now, I wish we could weave in all the culture that we have, the opera, the blues, Belmont de Villers, and the home of so much blues and all these things. We can't do it. We don't have the space. But I think the cultural thing of our history is an important thing to do. Now, as a coda, I kind of loved what J.D. Reeves did with number 1, Pensacola, number 2, St. Augustine. I think it's so much fun and catchy. And I think it would create a lot of buzz. But buzz probably doesn't last for 20 years. But we will continue to be the first place settlement. So those are my comments.
That's funny. He sent that to me when I was in St. Augustine. And I had it, I stuck it up and showed my friend at dinner. I said, ha, 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 look what we're putting on our tank. Thank you, Ms. Benson. Do I have others wanting to give their way in on it? Mr. Kimball.
Yeah, so I would second that exact same thing. I think celebrating the fact that we are that first settlement summit, and there's one. I mean, that first and future. I was okay. I mean, or maybe just a simple America's first settlement tagline underneath it. That would be more timeless. So, I mean, unless they find another settlement that's older somewhere. But and I certainly think that the Blue Angels. I like number 6 better myself, with the 3 planes kind of going sideways. But I think that's it's just a matter of preference. I think those, to me, those would be the 2 things I'd like to see on there.
I liked 6 too, by the way. Let's say that.
Thank you, Chuck. Mr. Williams.
Yes, I too like the Blue Angels. I don't know if it was number 6, but the one where we did show United States Navy on it, one of those would be my preferred choice. And I think I listed it as 9 or 10. Yes. And I don't know, I'm not sure about the first settlement thing. That seems to be a late development. I always thought St. Augustine was growing up, so to hear that now is kind of new. And as he said, perhaps somebody else will vie for that claim shortly thereafter. So I don't know if we want to try to stick to it as much as we are the west coast of Florida, and somehow we can't say first coast if you want. But and then ECUA, I thought it's our tower. Somehow I don't want that to be overlooked, and it is an opportunity for us to be promoted as well in a very positive way. We welcome them to Pensacola. Yeah, and I like the one about Pensacola with the ECUA wave on there. I think that's pretty nice. But then if you transitioned into that same wave into somehow showcasing the fact that this is ECUA's tank, and we are to be promoted as much as the project is to be promoted about city culture, about our culture, and about where they're at, then I would like to see Blue Angels, like Welcome to Pensacola with it was number 18, and that right there. So if we can't, I mean, we should highlight ourselves if nobody else does. I think it was said some kind of way that it's a poor frog that doesn't do his own pond or whatever. So I think this is worth noting that we are ECUA. We are working to do the county business, and it should be noted. So those would be my three choices if we're able to do three, and I hope we are.
Ms. Benson?
Yeah, I wanted to concur with Mr. Williams. I feel like having ECUA, it's a given. You know, it needs to be on there. It's our water tower, it's our branding. I was just thinking these other two as in addition to the ECUA. But thank you for bringing that up, Mr. Williams.
Thank you. Mr. Perkins?
Thank you. I've heard some great discussion. I like a lot of the ideas. And I can understand the desire to want to put ECUA on there, but I think people are just tired of self-promotion. You know, I mean, with everything the country's been through and everybody kind of promoting themselves, I just don't know that would go over well. And there's a couple of things by it. Is people who are not from here see ECUA on there, and they will have no clue whatsoever what that means. You know, all the tourists and everybody coming down the interstate. And people from here, if you were to put, and this is what I would say, I like that the ECUA waves and stuff, and people recognize that. So you can have that message there without having it say ECUA. But I think you could have, on the front, you could have Pensacola with that ECUA font, the waves and stuff, and then America's First Settlement underneath it. So when you're coming in and you see the water in the background and stuff, you see that Pensacola with the waves and stuff, America's First Settlement, and that might get people curious. Oh, America's First Settlement, let me look into that. They might research and stuff. And then on the side facing the base, you know, or facing the west side of town, I like the number 6 too, that says Navy stuff, have that Blue Angels logo there. And then on the side facing the east side of town, have that cradle of naval aviation there. And I know I haven't heard a lot of support for that, but I tell you what, if it wasn't for what happened there, we would be speaking German here, you know. I mean, that's played a major role in our country, you know, and it's kept us as free people. It's it's just been a huge development, and oftentimes living here we overlook that, you know. But there are a lot of people all over, and there are you know, not just in Gulf Breeze, but all over, there are people who have earned their wings here, you know. And I think they had a show about it, Wings of Gold or something like that. But it's a big deal. It's a big deal, and I'd hate to see us remove that. But I think we can have everything that I've heard people express with this, you know, this welcome to instead of welcome to Pensacola, use the Pensacola with that nice ECUA font, America's First Settlement underneath it, so you include that historical element, which I think is important. People don't realize the amount of history that we have here. I metal detect and stuff around here, and I find, not a lot of them, but I find Spanish cobs from the 1600s and stuff. I mean, we have a lot of history here, old military buttons and stuff. There's a lot that happened here. And then we also, you know, have the Blue Angels, which everybody loves, which is probably the most popular of the elements that we've asked for, but we also incorporate that historical cradle of naval aviation that was so important to our nation's history. So I like my preference would be to have 12 on one side, 6 on one side, and then the Pensacola font with America's First Settlement underneath it on the front, facing away from the water as you go toward the water.
Okay. Mr. Woody?
Could I ask you to repeat that again? I'm trying to keep notes. The cradle of naval aviation, that's number 12. On which side?
On the side facing 9th Avenue.
Okay, so that's the
On the side facing
east
9th
side.
Avenue. Then on the side facing Garden Street, the Blue Angels. And then as you go downtown, you come off the interstate, have that Pensacola, America's First Settlement with the ECUA font.
Okay.
And they kind of see that in the background with the water and stuff. And I think it could make some great advertising and stuff for Pensacola, having that Pensacola there.
Okay.
Can you put up the number 6 again?
Sure.
6? Okay. Okay. I'm sorry, Ms. Benson.
I don't disagree with what Dale is saying. I think I liked 6 best of the Blue Angels, by the way, because it said U.S. Navy. That was very legible. I love Americans First Settlement. I'm not crazy about the hybrid logo of Pensacola with the ECUA font. It's just a little, logos are supposed to, be a brand and repeated. I don't mind the ECUA logo being fairly small under Americans First Settlement. If we want to do 3, we could certainly make the ECUA just small, that it identifies it as our tower and doesn't have to be something big. So I could see 3 and making ours just sort of a footnote. But I think the whole Pensacola with the wave is a little, much. I think it would be interesting if we had Mr. Bullock go back to the drawing board and show us what a water tower would look like with these 3. And maybe he could come up and weigh in, are we trying to do too much?
Well, and the other thing we have to remember is we do have some time constraints.
Right.
Yes. I agree, Dale. Mr. Brown?
I agree with what Dale was saying. I do like the way he broke it down on the 3 different sides. My only concern would be, in listening to Ms. Benson, if we keep adding to this water tower, we don't want this to be a distraction on the road. I think we can make a nice, clear statement with one of the ones that's the most eye-catching. And I do happen to like the one with the waves, because we're not saying Pensacola Beach, we're not saying anything about the water itself, but you can see that as a part of Pensacola with the first settlement underneath. And then as a veteran, I say we definitely need to pay some respect to the folks here at the Navy base, considering what they've done for us, not just for the city and the state, but for the whole United States. So I'm in much agreement with what Mr. Dale had laid out.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Ms. Benson?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Woody?
I had a comment earlier, but that was 3 or 4 questions ago, so I've kind of lost track of what I was going to say. Other than, somewhere along the line, someone talked about the size of graphics. It is ECUA infrastructure, and I think it would be appropriate that we have some identifying marker on there somehow, some way. That doesn't say that it has to be at the size or scale of these kinds of graphics. We could perhaps put the ECUA logo on the west exposure, but have it be a 4th or an 8th even size of what our normal graphic would be. You can read it, you can see it, but it isn't the overpowering graphic of the entire presentation.
Thank you. I'll weigh in. I just wonder, Dale, do you have like a recorder in my phone or something? Because every time you say something, it's like, God, that's exactly what I said this morning. I think the same exact thing that Dale thinks. I like the blue wave. I think when you look at it right here, it kind of looks busy, but when you're thinking about it way up there, I think things get lost way up there. I think, the wings, the way they were before, kind of just got lost up there. So I think that big wave, if you want to go to it, kind of stands out, and I like the first settlement underneath it, Florida's first settlement, or America's first settlement. It's America's first settlement. And St. Augustine took that down, just so you know, Mr. Williams. When we proved that we were the first settlement years ago, UWF proved that with some artifacts that they found. They took it down. I was there last week when this all came out, and it now says they were, when you go into their city, it just says the year that they were born. I mean, that they were incorporated. I thought that was pretty interesting, because all this was going on at the same time when I was there. So I do like that, and I do like that brings in the ECUA logo. I don't really care if the tower says ECUA on it. Every tower in town says ECUA on it. We are the water people. I think everybody knows that. So I don't have an affinity to having our logo on it at all. I agree with Dale on that. The only thing I will say about number 6 is the Blue Angels never fly 3 like that. They're always like 4 in a diamond, I think. So either have 1 or 4. And we might could talk to the Blue Angel people about that. Okay.
Yeah, I agree with that comment, and also keeping in mind the complexity of the design
Right.
and the size and scale of everything as you're driving down the highway. I'd advocate for a single large image. of
Yeah, a
one
larger Blue
plane
Angel with the
rather
U.S.
than
Navy
several.
on the wings. I like that better than the 3, because 3, they don't fly in 3s, or I've not seen it. But
Was number 5 like that? I'm trying to remember.
I think number 9 is like that. Yeah, 9 or 8 and 9. See, it's got the. And then my only change of Dale's was maybe flipping the east and west, because NAS is the cradle of navigation, and having the cradle of navigation on the NAS side and the Blue Angels on the Gulf Breeze side. I mean, the side coming from Gulf Breeze. That was my only thoughts, but I do like all of your ideas of logos. So I guess we have some stuff to think about between now and the next week. Maybe Ms. Benson?
Well, I think we should ask Mr. Bullock to come back with
Yes.
something that reflects what we were talking about. I think there's consensus for absolutely for the home of Blue Angels. I think everybody is agreeing with that. I think we're hearing that we want cradle of naval aviation.
Definitely.
And I'm good with that. And I think Florida's first settlement.
Yeah.
And I think the question, I'm a little troubled by the hybrid logo that says Pensacola and all that. I'm not sure that adds a lot, and I'd rather have a discrete ECUA logo, because we already have 3 major things, and to add that 4th one with Pensacola in big letters.
So
but-
I
but-
think he hears us and he'll come back with
Yeah.
both. The Pensacola with the wave, America's First City, and then
Settlement.
Welcome to Pensacola, America's First City without the wave. And then I think we kind of agree on 9 or one of the Blue Angels. 9 seems the best. Detail-wise for the first person painting, I think, without adding a 4th plane, and then cradle of aviation. So, all right, so can you do that for us? Thank you, sir. All right, thank you. This was a great discussion. And Chad, I want to thank you again for your service, number 1, and for coming all this way from Gulf Breeze to share your thoughts with us today. Mr. Woody. Okay, you're done? All right, so we move now to approval of the minutes, the January 19th CAC meeting on page 5. Do I have an approval? A motion?
I'll move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball. I have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. And please vote. And it passes 9-0. We move now to item F, adoption of General Resolution GR 2116, authorizing an increase in engineering service by Mott McDonald Group in the amount of $49,760.70 for design efforts related to the electrical system modifications and upgrades at the Blue Angel Target Lift Station LS 379. I believe these were our modifications, not the contractors. Do I have a motion? Ms. Benson?
I move the staff recommendation.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Mr. Kimball, thank you. Please, any discussion, comments? If not, Ms. Benson, do you have comments?
No, sorry.
Please vote. And it passes 9-0. We move now to item G, adoption of general resolution number GR 21-17 on page 18, authorizing a change order for CIP project CS 318T, Inner Island expansion and payment from appropriate line item in the operating budget. Again, this is our change, not the contractors. Ms. Benson?
Move the recommendation.
Thank you.
Now second.
Thank you, Mr. Kimball. Any questions or comments? If not, please vote. Ms. Benson, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just to clarify, this comes from the people in the area. This does not come out of ECUA coffers.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. And it passes 9-0. We move now to the informational reports found on pages 22 through 25. Does anyone have questions regarding the informational reports for water production or water reclamation? If not, we move to unfinished business. No unfinished business. We move to new business. Chuck?
I'm sorry, I wasn't
Mr.
here.
Kimball?
Thank you. I wasn't here earlier to add this on the agenda. I apologize. I was on a legislative call for a different organization that I serve on, and they were talking about with the funds that the state is going to receive from this federal bill, that they are not looking to allocate that towards recurring expenses, but it's going to be towards one-time projects for infrastructure, water, sewer, that kind of stuff. So I just was going to pass along that maybe we should, I don't know if whoever we have lobbying for us is working on that or not, but this would be a good time to advocate for that, because that's what they're wanting to do with that money, is one-time projects.
Yeah, Mr. Woody.
Yeah, we've already reached out to Matt's husband and Dalton, who represents us in Tallahassee, to try to get some early feedback on the state legislators' perspective on how they want to allocate and appropriate those funds as they're received. Many of our staff are also members of and tied in with our larger peer organizations like Water Environment Federation and other nationwide water and wastewater agencies who lobbied quite hard, quite frankly, to try to get this kind of language in the bill. So we're trying to explore where we might have opportunities.
So, thank you. Where are we on the Navy Boulevard septic to sewer? Are we still contemplating that? I didn't realize that they were planning to open back up the gate at the front. That's what I heard, and then I also heard that they were going to do something with the street there. So maybe we could ask about that.
Navy Boulevard?
Yeah, that's where the entrance to the Navy base used to be on Navy Boulevard, at the end of Navy Boulevard, but they changed it to the back gate, which is off Blue Angel. And you know, you hear things and you never know if they're true. So I thought maybe we could get someone to check into
No,
that.
I don't have any insights. Unless Don or Stacy have anything to add, that, yeah, we'll have to look at that.
Interesting discussion, though. Thank you, Chuck. I got an email this morning about that and forwarded it. Mr. Perkins.
Well, this is kind of a basic thing, but I had a constituent issue this past period where somebody had called in and they were distressed because we weren't picking up recyclables, and their recycling can had gotten taken and they hadn't gotten recycling service in quite some time. And come to find out that their recycling can had nothing that said recycling or anything on it, so they had been dumping garbage in there, and so the can got taken because of contamination, and they were left with one can. And I just, take it for granted that people know which can's the recycling can, but do all of our cans have a recycling label or some sort of identifier on there? And if not, can we look at
The
that?
tan ones do. Now, if we have some really old historical ones, due to being fairly new to the organization, I can't speak for something that might be very old that's out in the system. But generally for the last 5 to almost 10 years, we've been pretty consistent with using tan cans that have recycling on them. I would also add that before removing a recycling can from one of our customers, they would have received 2 little hang tags on their cans that would identify problems and would specifically say that continued contamination could lead to removal. So that shouldn't have been a surprise based on those tags.
Thank you. Mr. Williams?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I recall from our previous meeting, I guess, in December, we were talking about meeting times when daylight savings came into effect, and just wanted to see if that meant our next meeting, or when do we want to give the public an opportunity at 5 o'clock to be able to come to meetings. And I don't know about I wanted to just bring up the fact that the recycling app is working well. I don't know if the people in other counties that use our recycling services have access to or know about that recycling app, and if not, they can have information available to them as well. And then lastly, this is kind of a big one, if I can finish out, is the ECUA website. ECUA website is not very user-friendly. And I have to call still to try to get information relative to the resolutions to find out where they're at on the website, and I don't think it should be that difficult for me. And that's not that I'm bright, but I think I should be able to navigate it as well as anybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Only, Mr. Woody. Mr. Woody?
Okay. Couple comments on that topic regarding our ECUA website. It wasn't that many years ago that it was updated, but I will agree that we're making a number of changes that will give us an opportunity to revamp it. I've mentioned to some of our board members in the board report that we're investing in a software called PrimeGov that will take our agenda information to a whole other level. It'll allow for you to click on not only our archive, but certainly our current agendas, be able to find particular agenda items and go right to the point on the video where that was discussed. So that whole page will dramatically be updated. That'll provide us an opportunity to really do some other revisions on other pages as well. I've not contracted for that, but would anticipate that once we have our social media coordinator here and on staff, who was recently hired, so we have some more resources amongst our communication staff. That in combination with getting PrimeGov on board will be a good leg up to do a wholesale review of that.
Thank you. And on the pickup, we don't pick up the recyclables from the other cities. They truck them over. So they wouldn't use the recycle app. So the individuals don't use them. Am I correct, Natalie, that they bring the recyclables over? The city itself does by the truck. So we only use, that's really only for the people we pick up. But I agree with you, it is working great. Everybody likes it. I'd like to see more push out of that to the public, But, and so if everybody would try to share that on their Facebook pages or their LinkedIn or whatever social media you use. I've been sharing it and people love it. Mr. Brown.
I just want to echo what Mr. Williams was talking about with respect to the website. I had a conversation with Mr. Williams about it. I had a couple of elderly individuals try to get on there, and I will admit I am not computer or software savvy at all. But I attempted to get on, and I found myself lost and really digging, actually for a couple of hours, and that's when I spoke with Mr. Williams about it. It seemed a bit cumbersome to try and use for the lay person. So I'm glad Mr. Woody's got some folks that are working on it, because that's been a concern for a couple of folks in the area that I work at.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I wholeheartedly agree, Ms. Benson.
Thank you. I wanted to respond to what Mr. Williams said about our meeting times, because I was thinking about it this week, too. I was thinking, okay, it's spring, time has changed. But I'll tell you, I'm concerned about the bridge, because what's happening downtown, if you're on Cervantes, like at 4 o'clock and after, they're queued up to get on I-110, to go to I-10, and where we are is right where all of that traffic is bogged down. And at 5 o'clock, it's absolutely the worst. So I think we're kind of victims of the bridge right now, because we don't want to invite people to come here and then they're stuck in all that traffic. So as much as I think it's a great suggestion that we do it, we probably ought to delay until we see what's going to happen with this bridge. That's my thought.
Thank you, Ms. Benson. Mr. Williams.
If I just may reply, I agree now, particularly with the bridge, and 5 o'clock is the absolute worst time to be in traffic because of the extra traffic that's on the interstate. So just keeping that in mind as we approach a remedy with the bridge situation that citizens still would like to meet at 5. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Perkins, were you going to speak? Thank you. Any further new business? We'll move to committee communications, and I believe Mr. Woody wants to talk to us about email addresses.
When you found your seats this afternoon, you should have found a couple sheets of paper at your desk. The purpose for that information is to let you know that we are providing each of you an ECUA email. Specifically, it is first name dot last name at ecua.fl.gov. And we will be providing notifications of meetings, any other communications, et cetera, officially from ECUA to those addresses, and in lieu of the various email addresses that you have provided us, which are largely Gmail and Yahoo and whatever other services that you might perhaps use. Our concern being that all the documents that we submit to you are public records. And the business that you conduct as a CAC member are public records. Be it with members of our customers or discussions with staff or other types of correspondence that we have. And they're all subject to Freedom of Information Act or Sunshine Law. Therefore, we have to have access to all of that. That becomes a complication and, quite frankly, exposes your own personal email inbox to review by outside parties, which most of you understandably would not want to do. Your private business is your private business, and it would be best if we can keep that separate from ECUA business. So on the attachments, you have a username and password. That's unique to you. The rest of the paperwork everybody's received is the same. There's some instructions on how to load the webmail service onto a Android device if you carry an Android phone. There's also similar information for how you do that if you have an iPhone instead, or if you are trying to access email through a home computer. Certainly, I would encourage you to contact us. We can put you in touch with our IT people or whoever, walk you through that process, help you load it on the phone if necessary, whatever it might take to be sure that you're in good communication and we can use this new service. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me personally about it.
Thank you, Mr. Woody. We move now to open forum, our second open forum, and I don't see anyone here, so we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Now.